Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Organics Show. My name is Jordan, and today's guest we have Carmen from Eclectic Earth. And now Carmen is a naturopath. She's a herbalist. She is somebody who is very interested in root cause healing. Too often, as we spoke about in the conversation today, Western medicine or modern medicine in a larger, broader sense is more reactionary and less preventative. It's also looking at band-aiding symptoms more so than looking deep down into the root cause of why some of these issues are surfacing and expressing themselves in our bodies and in society at large. And I think something that in this conversation, Carmen really points out is that we are losing this connection to nature and to the natural ways of doing things, some tried and true and tested methods of healing that for decades, for centuries, for millennia, people have been using in ancient cultures. Now, this is a subject that I'm super interested in, and it very much relates to gardening because we talk about how you can grow a lot of these things at home, how you can have some crossovers between what you might use medicinally or culinarily, if that's even a word, and in your cooking and things like this. So you can get multiple benefits out of these plants having them at home. So this conversation is super interesting, and I know that you'll find lots of value. So if you're finding like that you've got some ailments, some aches and pains, or anything that you feel like you just really want to try and heal yourself or get back to understanding the root cause healing in your life, then this conversation is for you. I won't dilly-dally around too much. I want to get into the crux of this, and I'll let Carmen explain exactly what a naturopath is here at the start so that you can really understand where we're going to take this conversation. But without further ado, this is Carmen from Eclectic Earth. In your own words, or in a way that you can describe it best, what does naturopath mean to you? What does that role represent, and how are you helping people? Like, what's that job for you?
Okay, so as a naturopath, I guess I'm helping people. Sometimes I'll explain to people that a naturopath, if they've never heard of a naturopath before, sometimes I'll say to them, you know, how you'll go to a doctor and the doctor will help you with your health conditions. Well, it's kind of the same thing, but instead of just, giving you something quick and easy to suppress your symptoms, we're actually going to find out what's wrong, look at the root causes, and go from there. So generally, I'll sort of say to my clients, basically, when you're looking at um, any state of dis-ease in the
Mhm.
body, you are that's kind of the root cause. Getting to the root cause of any kind of disease in the body is looking at deficiencies and toxicities,
Mhm.
and sometimes trauma is thrown in there as well. And so to explain what I mean by that, generally, a deficiency is something that, the body's not getting enough of what it needs. Um, and a toxicity is that it's getting too much of what it can't handle. So when you break that down further, um, deficiencies can be, it can be things like we're not getting enough of the nutrients that our body needs to thrive. It might come down to, doing blood tests and determining that, okay, your vitamin D's low, your zinc's low, your B12, that sort of thing. So that's an obvious kind of deficiency, or how we generally think of what a deficiency is. But deficiencies can also be, when you think of the body not getting what it needs so much more than that. So, and nature
Mm.
provides so much of that. So, sunlight. Are you getting enough sunlight, especially morning sunlight? Because we need the morning sunlight for our circadian rhythms. Are you getting enough of, the right nutrients from your food? Is your food is fueling you? So what is it? If you're having a diet that's highly processed and full of junk food and actually no nutrients in there, then the body is essentially starving. It's that's the essence of malnutrition when you're not getting nutrition from your food. So yeah, other things that we need goes beyond just, those sorts of things, but social connection, time in nature, time to do things that we like and we enjoy and that brings us joy. Like that's all part of what we need. So when you're thinking about deficiencies, you're thinking along the lines of every single thing that we need to thrive. And then
Hmm.
toxicities, again, you've got your obvious ones. So, your chemicals and your toxins that you might be subject to at home or in the workplace. Um, some things we can avoid, and some things we can't. So then it comes down to choices as well. So,
Hmm.
you might not be able to, you might be subject to a lot of chemical exposure in your job, but you might be in a position where you just can't leave your job. You just have to do that. In our society, our modern society, we are traveling, using transport. You drive into the city, there's pollution. You drive your car, there's pollution. Some of those things, again, we might not have so much control over, but you kind of think of what is out of your control and then what you do have control over. So that's the choices that you make about what you put onto your skin, for example, what you clean your house with, for example. Like these are some of the really easy kind of choices.
Hmm.
You can choose how much sleep you get. Well, to a degree, by that's a whole thing again. So I won't get into that now. But yeah, just getting back to the toxicities, and being aware of what toxins are around us, which is something that, a lot of people aren't aware that something that they're eating all the time might be a toxin for them. So it's identifying what those toxins and deficiencies are and then going about rectifying it.
Hmm.
And that may be through herbal medicine, through diet, through lifestyle advice, and that sort of thing. So that was a long-winded
No, that's a beautiful
answer to your
explanation.
question about naturopathy.
That's
But it's
beautiful.
utilizing the healing power of nature. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So nature has everything that we need. We just sometimes need a bit of support to help to learn to tap into nature, to be able to, because we are part of nature. We're all
Hmm.
part of nature. And the more we go against nature, that's when, the whole deficiency toxicity kind of thing comes up as well. So getting back to basics and yeah, honing in on the healing power of nature and being able to utilize that,
I love it.
as is meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're exactly right.
Thanks.
And I love that there's so many beautiful things that you touched on there already. I think first and foremost, I want to go back to how you said it's a dis-ease. It's this disconnection of something, or this. Usually, it's an expression of something that's going wrong, like you said, with a deficiency or a toxicity. And this disease is a expression of that. And it can be from having a high stress job. It can be from environmental exposure to toxins. It can be not getting enough out of our food, which is something obviously I talk a lot about, trying to grow nutrient dense food, these types of things. But you said it right that our typical Western approach, or pharmaceutical approach, is to band-aid these things or to try and manage symptoms rather than getting to that root cause. And the naturopath, I've always explained it as the natural path, because it's like that kind of, it works that well. I
Yes.
don't know whether that's actually true or not, but it's the
Yeah, yeah,
it's this, yeah,
absolutely.
it's this holistic approach that is looking at everything at once as a whole and complete with connection to nature and to everybody else and community, and seeing where those problems may be, rather than, yeah, okay, you've got high blood pressure, so we need to give you this tablet to lower that blood pressure. It's like that's coming from somewhere. There's a reason why that's out of whack. And someone like yourself, someone who's understands this holistic approach, can be a little bit more specific in terms of, okay, look, let's backtrack. Let's have a look at your life. Let's have a look at the factors that may be contributing to this, and then see if we can provide some sort of remedy for that. Is my thinking right in all of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. And I like the way you say, natural path, because I actually had a lot of people have never heard of a naturopath, and then they see the word naturopath and they see the word naturopathy
Mhm. Yeah.
and they get confused as to how to say either one. So I have a friend who, and I guess, it was probably along the same thinking of what you've said, that she actually said, what is a natural path, a natural path. And I thought, yeah, there you go. So yeah, naturopath and then naturopathy. And so it can be a little bit confusing, but if you just break it down to natural path, that is, yeah, definitely. And everything that you've said there is absolutely spot on.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Well, it's something that I've come to learn in, the last, say, 5, 10 years, as to uh, how important it is to really understand how disconnected we are as human beings from nature. And that goes, with all of these things, like we're saying, with the way that we operate in the world with pollution or with chemicals. We've done over, a fair few years ago now, done a big audit of our house, all the chemicals that we're using, and how that impacts, washing our hair or cleaning your body and what you put on your skin and all of these types of things. You don't realize until you actually have a look at these ingredients and what those things can do for you. And then no wonder we're seeing so many expressions of disease and things like that in our world. Um, what sort of things, like, commonly, if you're seeing clients, which you are obviously regularly dealing with different things, what are some of the things that you're seeing that come up regularly in terms of things that people are looking for help through naturopathy in your work?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess one of the main things that I kind of see all the time, everyone is stressed.
Yeah.
Everyone in this, yeah, in this, the society that we're in at the moment is under stress. And stress affects everything. So whether it be real stress or perceived stress, the body is affected in the same way. And
Mm,
stress does create inflammation in the body. And it essentially will stop healing. So, some of the common patterns, there's nervous system problems with dysregulation of the nervous system. You've got anxiety. Just about every second person I see has anxiety. There's sleep issues, and, blood sugar crashes and cravings, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, and chronic inflammation, and everything affects something else. So also with naturopathy, we're looking at the whole body.
mm,
Um, and it's not just, whereas, if you went to your doctor, let's say you might, like you said, oh, you've got high blood pressure, here, have this. Oh, you've also got sleeping issues, here, have this. Oh, you've also got this, here, have this. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, this medication actually causes this, so we'll give you this tablet for that. And before you know it, there's polypharmacy where people come in and they're on 10 different medications, maybe starting with one,
hmm
but then there's all the flow on effects. But when we're getting back to, stress and how that affects so many different body systems, it's kind of almost like a layered system where, your stress will affect your digestion. If you're constantly in the flight or fight mode, your body is not in the rest and digest. So it's going to affect those things, literally rest and digest
Yeah.
and everything that affects that. And um, if your digestion is not working properly, you can imagine you're not going to be absorbing the nutrients from your food. So even with food, we can be eating all supposedly the right things once we figure out what those right things are for us individually, because it is very individualized.
Hmm.
But you might not be absorbing your food. So then it's sort of going back to, okay, so what's the issue there with not absorbing what you're eating? And then if you're not, absorbing the nutrients from your food, then you're nutrient deficient, and that's going to affect all sorts of body systems, put your hormones out of whack and everything. And throwing in all of those, the endocrine disrupting chemicals and
Mm.
all of the all of those things from all of the chemicals and toxins that we're exposed to, you can see how that affects so many different body systems and yeah, so many issues.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the kind of the rise of disease in society because we're having so many more chemicals. It seems like I keep getting back to that. I'm a bit obsessed with that,
No,
but
rightly
yeah, it
so.
all does contribute.
Yeah, it
Mm.
it does. And like it's funny, my grandmother's quite proud actually, the fact that she says it's funny, that like when you get old, you sort of, really don't care what people think. But she says, "Oh, I don't visit the doctor because they'll just give me something and tell me something's wrong." And she says, "I'm quite proud because all of my friends have this great di list of things that they have to take every day, and she doesn't have anything." And um, I sort of, I prod and poke around and sort of say, what do you think it is? Because quite easily you could be expressing a lot of this disease as well. And she puts it down to the fact that she's outdoors in the garden connecting with nature and connecting with community regularly and keeping the body moving,
Yes,
focusing on low stress. It's these types of things, and we see this with blue zones and longevity, and the fact that it's all about love, connection,
hmm,
community, natural ways of doing things. It's not
yes,
necessarily what diet you have or whether you smoke or drink, although obviously that has an impact. It's the community connection and that low stress, realistically, that these people are living within that
yes,
life. Uh, so is no wonder, as you
yeah,
say, that there's
absolutely.
there's this expression of disease that we're seeing quite prevalently in this modern world. Um, just going then to, obviously there is the one way of doing things where we go through, you go to the doctor and there are some good doctors out there. I don't want to blanket say that there's not, but when someone's looking for a naturopath, are they already of the understanding that that's what that they want? They want this more natural approach, or are you having to kind of work on a little bit of a perspective or mindset shift to kind of help them understand that we're looking at root causes more so than band-aids?
Yeah, that's a good question because I guess when someone comes to me for the first time, it can be different types of people. So it could be the people who have just always, grown up with using natural remedies, home remedies, a bit like myself. We'd always have lemon and honey and garlic when we were getting a cold, and it was just sort of normal. So you have the people who are already down that path, and that is, what they're seeking is someone who's, had a bit of formal education and experience in that area. And then you also have people who have kind of done the mainstream thing forever and
Mm,
are feeling frustrated because they're not getting the solutions that they were hoping for. They're not, they're putting all of their faith in And again, I don't want to be, bagging out the main system, but quite often there's people aren't getting the solutions and the answers to what they want. So it's like, well, can you help me then? And so I will sort of say, well, this is how we work as opposed to, how they work. And it's not going to be a quick and easy because they're also used to going to the doctor and, spending 10 minutes getting this medication, taking the medication, right, okay, I'm good to go to work again tomorrow. Well, that's not really how the body works naturally.
Mm,
So when you are, when you run down, when you start getting sick, sometimes the body is trying to tell you something, and it's like, okay, there's something not quite right here, and it'll give you little hints
mm,
along the way. So if you start listening to your body and hone in on what the body's trying to say to you, whether
mm,
that be through, oh, I keep getting sick all the time, I keep, I've got this persistent cough, it's it's trying to reach out and tell you. So there's another little saying about listen to the body when it whispers before it has to scream. And quite
yes.
often people will come to me who are at that scream stage
Yeah.
where they didn't listen to those little warning signals, and then it has turned into something big. And then when it's big, it's a complete disruption to your life. I've had so many clients who are sort of, well, I'm on a year off my normal life because I need to focus on myself. And a lot of my clients, especially, I'm going to say, especially, women who are my age or older, getting into your 50s, you've been looking after everyone, naturally, we're sort of nurturers. We've been nurturing and caring for everyone else our whole life, putting ourselves last.
Mm,
And then it all creeps up. You've put yourself last. Oh, that doesn't matter. I'll power on through because someone else needs me, and I need to be here, and I need to be at work, and I need to be caring for my family, and then it all creeps up, and then it turns into something sort of major. So we need to listen to those body signals, and then also um, when you're healing naturally, the body has the ability and the desire to heal itself, given
mm,
the right tools. So, what we're doing through identifying, the root cause is we're then identifying what those tools are that we're either missing or, that need to be readjusted in order for the body to reach that state of homeostasis when it's in proper balance and it's able to thrive because it's been given the right conditions. And it's a little bit like, gardening and
yeah.
nature, given the right conditions, it will thrive. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but it
Very
does
true.
take time. It's not a quick fix because if you're unwell, the body not only needs to be given the right tools, but it needs to rest. Rest is that recovery stage, and that's why sleep is so important as well. Because when we sleep at nighttime, everything regenerates. It gives the body time to heal, and you might even notice, sometimes you might go to bed and you might have a little bit of a scratchy throat, or your glands might feel a little bit not quite right, and you wake up in the morning and you're perfectly fine.
Mm,
So the body is always wanting to heal itself, and given the right tools like rest and proper nutrition and sunlight and time in nature and all those things are giving it, which do take time,
yeah.
are giving it what it needs. So
Yeah. Uh,
um,
That's so
yeah,
that's
I
great.
don't
I
know if
love
I've answered your
you
question or I've
have.
gone off on.
You have the all of these things are so important, and I love that you're touching on all of these. I want to just touch on the root cause thing because often, for example, in things like trauma or trauma research and things like this, where the body can often hold on to trauma without you consciously realizing that something's going on. So, for example, if something happened on that day or around something that has that sort of context, you might feel tightening up that you don't realize, or there might be, all sorts of
Mm,
things going on that are a representation of that trauma. Um, And also similarly to the way in which people are explaining their lives or describing to you. So, for instance, you might have someone that comes in and they sit down and you say, "What can I help you with?" kind of thing, and like, what can I do for you? And they might start spitting off all of these things that they have, but quite often it's the layer underneath that they're not really sure of or conscious
Mm,
of that is actually the expression of that. And that to me, might be that root cause where it's like something is missing, like they're missing that connection, or they're just, too overworked in a certain area or too relied upon, like you said, with many women who obviously are giving themselves so much to everybody else. Do you find that that's something that you've got to do a little bit of digging underneath the scratching underneath the surface?
yeah, yeah, definitely. So when I see a client for the first time, I will spend quite a bit of time with them, and we will, take all of like a comprehensive case history. So obviously the symptoms and all of the stuff that they've got to tell me. And sometimes there's a lot going on. And, I'll talk about the different body systems and the symptoms that they have, diet, lifestyle, medical history, family history, really comprehensive. And one of the questions that I do ask is about trauma.
Hmm.
And I will often, some people might be kind of, you can see the response. And I will just explain to them that um, I'm sorry that, it is quite personal. I'll always have the tissues there. It's a
Hmm.
safe space to speak, because I'm here, I'm listening, I'm here to help them. But knowing about that can sometimes just unlock so much about their health, and even putting together a timeline. So, it might be, I've had this particular condition, I've had it for however many years, nothing's working, the doctor's done this and that, and I've been to specialists, nothing's happening. And, you get onto the sort of the trauma question. And then when you're looking sort of time wise, it's like, okay, so this started here, and this is also when this happened, and it something will click, and it'll
Hmm.
be like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And that happens so often that
Mm.
that psychological effect and health has such a flow on effect to physical health. So
Mm.
when you're just looking at the physical symptoms and things aren't sort of falling into place, once you look completely and holistically at everything, that is when a lot of things can be triggered off from a stressful event, a traumatic event in your life. So,
Mm.
once we've uncovered that, then that can be when the true, real healing starts to take place,
Yeah.
because, people will respond differently to stress in their lives, and a lot of people will, bury it, put on the brave face, carry on, a little bit like suppressing symptoms kind of thing. You're not actually addressing them and getting to the root cause. You're just suppressing it and, oh, it'll be
Hmm.
fine, soldiering on, but it's still going to creep back up on you. And if it's not now, it'll just be brewing and brewing and brewing over time. And then it, again, it might erupt in a big major event. So it's really important to identify that trauma that we may have just suppressed and buried, and it's still there if we haven't dealt with it. So, yeah,
Hmm.
that is very much a part of real, true healing.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
I
Part
definitely
of that
imagine
big
so.
picture.
And I imagine that your role as as a naturopath, obviously, we spoke about trying to come up with natural ways to help somebody with whatever's going on, but it's a lot more of being able to see the complete picture of this person and build this story of what's going on in their life, because it takes a lot of skill to be able to look at the bigger picture and see, and rather than just go, okay, you've got a cold, take this, or you've got stress, like, quit your job or whatever it may be. It's this ability to
Yeah.
see everything as it is as a whole and kind of go, okay, these are all balancing out. So it's a skilled job that you do. Now, I want to. Hey guys, really quickly, jumping in, I just want to remind you, if you are not subscribed to this show, that is the number one thing that you can do to show me your support. So if you're finding value from this conversation and you're deeply engaged, I would love you to hit the follow or subscribe button. All right, back to the show. Like we spoke about a little bit about the things that are outside of what we might typically think of with a naturopath with, herbal medicines and things like this. So stuff like sleep and sunlight and natural exposure, all of that kind of thing. And there's absolutely no shortage of research out there now that is proving all of this. And it's something that I focus on a lot with circadian rhythms and trying to get good sleep and rest and all of this. But being a being a gardener and being somebody who loves plants and all of this, I I can't help but want to lean into that. Um, I think that for thousands and thousands of years, for as long as we've known, the medicine cabinet has been the garden. And all sorts of different cultures around the world have been using various different plants for various different things. And thankfully, due to the internet and all of this explosion of knowledge, we're able to now kind of get back to what we used to know, all of this knowledge that used to be commonplace. And I was just wondering on your thoughts on this kind of like resurgence of old school techniques, like the recipe that your great grandmother used to say, oh, whenever you have a cold, you have that honey, lemon, and garlic or whatever. It's like these things are tried and true and tested over time, and through observation and through understanding and working with these plants, we've come to realize that they can be incredibly helpful before all of these, before Western medicine and all of this. So, can you just touch on a couple of your thoughts in terms of why you think that this is making a bit of a resurgence, or why you think it's so important that we are turning to the natural plants and the things that seemingly there's an antidote for everything in a plant?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I guess it comes back to, nature being there and providing and having everything that we need. We just need to learn how to tap into it. And like you say, before modern medicine, everything was derived through nature. So all of your ancient cultures, you've got your traditional Chinese medicine, your Ayurvedic medicine, even the Egyptian, the old Egyptian records, and just everywhere.
Hmm.
And that is all people had, and
Hmm.
that is what worked for them. And I think it's almost like um, the the growth of industry has kind of gone too far now.
Hmm.
So yes, it's all good for these new findings and research and everything, and that's great. But it's almost like, right, well, we can now utilize this and we can make money out of this. So
Mm.
as soon as making money out of this comes into it, it kind of gets away from, oh, you can get this for free from your garden and you can utilize this, and this will, slowly and gently support the body back into its natural balance, and your, health will be restored. But yeah, it's sort of, yeah, technology and industry, and economy, I guess, has all kind of gone way too far, taken over things. And, like that whole polypharmacy thing, like
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. Like getting back to natural medicine, you just, yeah, I think that is kind of, people are starting to open up. They're
Mhm.
starting to wake up. And with everything that's been happening in the world lately, they're kind of actually seeing that it's not working the way it is. So what was working beforehand? And, let's go back, maybe grandma's, crazy, weird and wacky thing wasn't so wacky
Yeah.
after all. But it's not wacky, it's real, and it's where everything stemmed from. So
Mm,
it kind of irks me that, you know, there's a lot of people who kind of think naturopathy is just some woo woo, just throw some leaves at it, and it's not. It's real science. It's combined from traditional knowledge, traditional medicine that's been around for centuries. You can't get that wrong. If it's been around for centuries and it's what people have used successfully, now the scientific studies are backing that up as well. So there is so much science and evidence-based medicine in naturopathy. So when people um, kind of say it's quasi science or it's not even real. It is real. It's there. It's always been there, and now it's more and more studies are coming out, and it's proving. So
yeah.
I think a lot of people are going back there to kind of realize that now, and yeah, our place is to sort of to educate people and to help more people through the amazingness of nature.
Yeah.
Um,
You're absolutely
yeah.
right. I think that you touched on a really good point there, the fact that like maybe we've gone too far in something and like that's the nature of capitalism in a way where like we discover something, for example, like ashwagandha. I'm growing that out the front in the garden, and now it's in every tablet, in every, whatever else. And people think that, I can, well, and, and there is certain merit to this because obviously there are some really high quality versions of these things out there. But, you go and get your simple multivitamin off the shelf and the quality of it is not there. It's mass produced. It's like by the time it goes into your body, and as you touched earlier, we might not even be effectively absorbing it. There's very minute amounts that are actually going into our bodies, and of what quality we don't really know. So as a gardener, the fact that I can just put ashwagandha in and it's growing like crazy and it's there when I need it, or the tulsi, the holy basil, you just go and grab a little bit, the elderflower or something that's just nice and easy, drop into a tea, and you can have that right there and ready when someone will go and spend hundreds of dollars getting all of these in a capsule or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just a very detached again version of what it is. So where I want to go with this then is if someone has like a garden. I know that you do a little bit of gardening yourself and you grow some of these amazing things and flowers and whatnot. Uh, what are some of the things that you think are a bit of a staple that somebody should really be, that's simple, easy stuff to be growing at home that is quite commonly used, or something that people can really get lots of value out of if they're growing themselves for free, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. So I just want to go back to what something else you said then
Of
that
course.
is really relevant as well. And that was, you can pick up these sort of cheap and nasty supplements off the shelf in the supermarket. These brands might be like on sale for $3.59, and you think, oh, this is natural, this will help me. And of course, it's cheap, it's nasty, and it's the marketing companies are jumping on the trend
Hmm.
of natural medicine and thinking, oh, we can make money out of this.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that magnesia, that people need more magnesium. A lot of people, for example, a lot of people are deficient in magnesium.
Hmm.
So the marketing companies, as long as it says magnesium, is going to get all those people that think, oh wow, yeah, no, I got some magnesium, it was on sale for $3.69, and it's useless, it hasn't done anything. So this whole natural medicine thing is, it's not real, it doesn't help, it's quasi.
Yeah.
So the frustrating thing about that is, yes, it's great that pharmacies and It used to only be herbalists that sold herbs and, natural medicines. Now you can get all sorts of natural medicines through the chemist. But the thing is, so let me go back to my
Yeah,
magnesium
yeah,
story. There's so many different forms of magnesium out
true.
there. There's about 9 different types of magnesium. Some are better absorbed by the body and some are not absorbed by the body. So that, for example, there's a form of magnesium that's in a lot of your cheap and nasty supplements called magnesium oxide, and it is not absorbed by the body. It's actually used in the preparation that you take. If you're having a colonoscopy and everything needs to be completely cleaned out, they will give you this preparation that will clean you out, and that
Right.
contains magnesium oxide, and that's the function of it. So when you're taking that, but it's the cheapest version of it. So when you're
Mm.
taking that, it's not absorbing in the body. It's actually, helping to clean you out. So it can help you if you need a clean out. But if you're deficient in magnesium,
It's not helping.
it's not going to absorb. So, we're in this situation where we need to be educated properly. And that's why there's proper qualifications in natural medicine, in herbal medicine and nutrition. And, naturopathy, so we can learn the different types, the formats, the availability to our bodies, and what we should be using. So then we have, the retail companies that are jumping on board, but we have practitioner only supplement companies that try to make these in the best quality format. So
Hmm.
going to a naturopath or a herbalist or a nutritionist is going to be the best way to find out exactly what you need, rather than, it popped up in my Facebook feed, and it keeps popping up in my Facebook feed. It pops up in your Facebook feed because that's clever marketing,
Yeah,
because there's money behind that. And
yeah,
that's what, all the marketing again wants you to think, oh wow, I must need this in my life because it's, but that's because it's paid advertising. Um so yes, it's important to be educated properly. So either, doing proper education yourself, or seeing a qualified practitioner
yeah,
to understand, so you're not wasting your money on these things that are lining the supermarket shelves because someone's caught on that, well, magnesium is the trend, oh, collagen is the trend, oh, this is
mm,
the trend, this is the trend, we'll make money out of it. So
yeah.
but
It-
yeah, yeah.
That
So
I just
now
before we
your
go,
question, sorry.
sorry, just before we go back to
Mm,
the plants, I want to just share a story on that as well because um I think you're very much on the money with understanding the type of magnesium or in that instance that it is because when my wife and I had our first child and when she was pregnant, they they always tell you to have folate as a as something. And I'm sure you've heard this one before and you see these like folate enriched white bread, which, makes me cringe. But the the understanding that I did, because I was like, look, I understand that not everything we read and we see is as it is. And I think understanding, okay, what is the actual mechanism behind this that we're actually trying to serve here? And what is the best version of that? And for example, that research made me come across the fact that methylated versions of vitamins are a lot better for our body because they're going like in our body they have to go through that process of methylation before they are able to be uptaken. And so now having a methylated folate version was markedly better on all of the blood results throughout the whole thing and actually really, really helped. Whereas just taking your basic folate supplement that you might get off the shelf at the supermarket was not doing any of that actual addition of folate. And the doctors, unfortunately, are told to recommend go and just get some folate. They don't explain to you. And I had to actually explain to the GP, or I think it was actually one of the midwives at the hospital, that we're taking the methylated version. And she said, "What's that?" And she didn't know, and she didn't understand that there are sometimes some sort of missing link in the chain, which makes you're not able to turn that folate into the methylated version to absorb. And she didn't understand that. And that kind of, along with our, oh my goodness, our nutrition lesson at the hospital, which was quite laughable. She said, what about, I have to tell this story because it makes me laugh so much. She said, um, what about, someone asked a question, what about fast food in terms of like, you know, what do we do for fast food? And I piped up being the, smart aleck that I am, and I said, you don't eat it. You don't have smart food, you eat whole foods. And then the nutritionist turned around and said, but we're all human beings, so choose a cheeseburger over a Big Mac. And I was like, oh my goodness. So anyway, they're
Oh my
telling they're
gosh.
telling people this in public hospitals to that we're all
Uh-huh.
human and a little cheeseburger here and there is not a bad thing, and that they didn't understand these different things. And like that sort of really affirmed to me that, okay, I really need to understand myself rather than sort of just trusting what we're being told the whole time, and sort of just like it helps to understand the mechanism as to why we do all of these things. So I just had to
Yeah,
share that
yeah,
share
absolutely.
that little
No,
story. I
can
don't.
I? Yeah, I want to say something about
Yeah, of
that too
course.
before we move on, if I
Of course.
can.
Yeah, please.
Absolutely can relate to that. And yeah, so I had a similar situation where a family member is got quite a debilitating disease. It's a um, disease he won't get over, but he is so much so that he's off his food, can't eat much food,
Wow.
isn't hungry. And the dietitian, in all her wisdom, I shouldn't
Yeah.
be,
I know
yeah,
what you mean though.
but so he's lactose intolerant as well. And he was sort of he was looking for ideas of, what am I supposed to do for an evening meal? I don't feel like an evening meal. It's hard to digest. I'm not hungry. I'm not enjoying food. And she said, oh, well, the best thing you can do is just have some crackers and cheese. And I thought, hang on. He's lactose intolerant, and a plain cracker has absolutely zero nutrient
Mm.
value. So she's just increasing his, reaction and, disruption to his digestive system as well, by telling him to have this. So it's so ridiculous, some of the advice out there, and just the lack of knowledge as well from these, supposed professional people. And yeah, the folic acid thing is is very common. Folic acid is, again, not absorbed by the body, especially if you, that's a whole nother pathway to go down.
Yeah,
But if you have the MTHFR gene,
that's right.
you can't absorb folic acid. So people who are deficient in folate, which is a lot of people, and yes, folate is very essential to, um, you know, um, uh, health for pregnancy and that sort of thing. So people think, or they used to say, to have the, whatever the common one was at the time, the folic acid supplement, and that can be doing the damage that it's supposed to rectify.
Yeah.
Again, with so many medications, they actually do more damage and they actually contribute to the problem that they're supposed to be solving. And folic acid is one of those, because
Hmm.
then it's making you more and more deficient. Um, and spina bifida risk and all that sort of thing, but so much more than that. So yes,
Yeah, you're so right.
absolutely.
It's a difficult one, and I think like
Mm,
I'm aware because there's like I'm guilty of it as anyone, but I it's easy to kind of go like there's so much ridiculousness out there. And I think all it does for me is highlights that we need to take a little bit more personal sovereignty, personal responsibility and accountability for our health, and basically looking into these
mm,
things properly so that you understand, because first and foremost the health is the number one thing. If we wake up in the morning and somebody in our family who's close to us, like you mentioned, is not well, everything else doesn't matter. So I think having a focus on
Mm,
understanding our health, understanding, okay, like I need to really understand how I work and tick and what I need can be the main driver of all sorts of things downstream from that. Um, I'm conscious of time,
yeah.
but I want to jump back into the plants before we finish, if that's okay, because I
Yes.
know that we could
Sorry.
go down
Yeah.
so many different rabbit holes with this, and I really appreciate all of
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
knowledge and insights on this. So yeah, let's go because if we want to take our health into our own hands and we want to maybe grow a few
Mm-hmm.
things on the windowsill or however you might do it in your garden or
Yes.
whatever,
Yep.
what are some common ones that we can have
Mm-hmm.
that are good for us to have in the kit?
Yes. Yep. Okay. So with this, first of all, I think when you're thinking about what herbs to grow, you have to actually think about um, what you want the herbs for,
Hmm.
what conditions you have, what space you have,
True.
and what you're going to do with them. Because so many people love the idea of growing herbs, like, oh, yeah, I've got my little herb garden growing, but they don't actually utilize the herbs because they don't really know what
Hmm.
to do with them. So that's, one of the reasons why I'm doing my herbal medicine workshops is to teach people, you can grow this and this is the way that you can use it. And using herbs medicinally. There's so many different ways, and learning about those different applications and how you can use it. So, if we were going back down to, which particular herbs to grow and why, if you were looking at, um, yeah, let's say you're growing herbs, you've got a small space, you need to do a little bit of research into how the herbs are going to grow. So, for example, one that you mentioned before was elder. Another one is mugwort, and another
Hmm.
one is moringa. So these aren't little, tiny, little, cute little plants. They all grow
Yeah.
into these giant monstrosities that you can't for example, my moringa, it's like twice as high as my huge high carport, and I can't even reach the foliage. So that
Hmm.
isn't, something that you can put in a cute little space. So you
True.
need to be mindful of that as well. And that some herbs want to be in your life and some don't. So some people, you won't have any luck growing a particular herb, even though you really, really want it. But that's when you can buy also the dried herbs. So
Yeah. Good point.
chamomile is one that I did a talk for the Queensland Herb Society recently, and it was 32 ways of cultivating calm creatively with chamomile. So
Cool.
chamomile you can use for so many things, and it is one of the safest, most gentlest herbs that a young baby you can use up to an elderly person. It's very good for for calming the anxious or the overactive child. It's
Hmm.
great for preparing us for digestion, for sleep. It's good for so many things. So chamomile is one that, in saying all that, I can't grow it. I have tried to grow it so many times and it dies all the time. So it, some reason, doesn't want to be in my life. But when you can get it and grow it, it's great to have.
Yep.
Comfrey is another one that is great to have in your garden. You would know all about this because of its benefits to the actual garden,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
giving nutrients to all the other plants and everything. But comfrey is one that it's great for first aid. So if you can make a comfrey poultice for assisting with anything sort of skin related, but also ligaments and bones. It
I've done
was
that.
known as, as knit
Yeah.
bone. And that's one of the things I do in my medicinal herbs workshop too, is we make a comfrey poultice and we apply it. And
Cool.
it's so easy. And you can
Mm.
make them and keep them in the freezer for if, someone has an injury. Aloe vera is obviously a good one that you can utilize for, again, mainly topically, but also internally as well. It's actually good for the digestive system. But everyone needs a aloe vera
Mm.
plant in their garden for, um, more sort of first aid use, like burns.
Yeah.
Just race out, even sunburn. I lathered myself. I got really badly sunburned not that long ago, and I just lathered myself in aloe vera, and as it dried, I just kept putting more and more and more on, and the relief that it gave me, yeah, it's just so effective. And there it is, just in the garden, straight
Yeah.
from nature.
Yeah.
And you can pop a bit of the gel just into a water bottle and sip on that as well.
Mm.
Calendula is another one that is great for skin healing. And I do a yarrow also is great for skin healing. It's really, really easy to grow. It's also known as a styptic. So a styptic actually stops bleeding. So if you've
Wow.
got a cut or something, you can just grab some yarrow. But I do have a story about the calendula. So calendula, chamomile, chickweed, and yarrow. I made up a herbal, an infused oil, which then I turned into a salve. And I made some up for this particular family member that I was mentioning before. So he also has um, quite irritated skin. So he's just, unable to, to walk and stuff. And so he's sitting there. So his skin has become sort of quite stagnant and quite irritated and sore. So I made up this herbal cream for him, and it worked wonders. It was amazing. So anyway, he had the nurses come in. He has the nurses come in all the time, and he has a feeding tube, and the site of the feeding tube became quite
Mm.
red and irritated. So they said, oh, you need to go and get this specific cream from the chemist. And it'll heal that up. And I couldn't help myself, and I kind of said, oh, I've actually made up this herbal cream. It's got calendula, blah blah blah. And they said, oh, no, 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 this is the one that you need. This is what they use for nappy rash.
Oh my
And
goodness.
anyway, so I said to my family member's partner afterwards, the best thing for nappy rash is this cream that I made. And she knew how great this cream was because she'd
Mm.
seen the success. Anyway, I thought, that's their journey and everything. And so later on, I was going up the street and I said, oh, did you want me to go to the chemist and get that particular cream that they wanted you to get? And she said, no, I'm just going to use your cream. I know that that it works. Anyway, so she phoned me the next day and said, or was it the next day, next couple of days? Anyway, next time I talked to her, which was not long after that, she said, it's cleared it up perfectly. And I
Wow.
just used your, and so I mean, there it is. It's
Mm.
it's real, it's true, it works, it's gentle, there's no side effects, it's
Mm.
not going to do anything else. So, yeah, and I think too, when you're choosing about which herbs to plant in your garden, like I sort of, came back to before, think about what you want to use it for. So there's culinary use as well, there's medicinal use, and sometimes you can choose herbs where you can use for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So you might be feeding your chooks, or there might be a whole heap of different things that you want to use. You might be making smudge sticks, for example.
Mm.
So and
True.
sage is one that comes to mind. Sage you can use culinarily, so we're
Hmm.
kind of used to pairing sage with chicken, and quite often culinary herbs have come about because of their medicinal use. So
Right.
pairing sage with chicken, it helps to break down fats. So that's going to help you to digest that fatty chicken meal.
Mm.
So sage is also good for sore throat. So you can do a sage and thyme tea, for example, to relieve sore throats. Sage is also great for anyone experiencing hot flushes. So you can have a tea for that as well. And obviously, you can make the smudge sticks and have some fun with sage as well. So it might be that you're thinking about, what herbs can I do lots and lots of different things with.
Hmm.
So keeping that in mind as to what you want to be planting in your garden.
Yeah, that's such a really good point because, like I said, I was just saying, well, what can people grow? But it's thinking about those crossovers and how you can have the overlap between what you might be cooking with or what you can use medicinally and things like this. And Um, I've got various, quite a few of all of those that you mentioned. And in like you said with the comfrey and stuff, I've got multiple different uses I'm having for that, for the aloe vera. Rosemary is another one that comes to mind that I use quite a lot. We use that for our hair actually, for scalp, my wife
Yes.
being a hairdresser and
Yes.
things. So all of these different things that you can grow, I think, is understanding, between you and I, somebody who understands the medicinal purposes of them and how to use them in that sort of way, but also what I can do in terms of mapping out the garden and how that might look for them in terms of actually growing it and the care of it and whereabouts in the world that you are, because we do have listeners from all over the world, so it may be different as to where
Mm.
these particular people are coming from as to what you might grow there. And something else that comes to mind in this regard is like seasonal fruit and vegetables, how certain, for example, like the fruit, the citrus fruit that is supposed to contain a lot of vitamin C if it's grown correctly. It will help you out in that flu season. That's generally when they sort of are coming about. That's generally when these things are doing the job that they are supposed to be doing for us at that time. So it's
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's understanding
Yes.
these plants as to okay, when might they be useful, having those crossovers, which I really appreciate you touching on, and then being able to understand how to actually use them. Um, so
Yes.
yeah, is there anything else that you think that we should touch on that we might not have touched on already in regards to all of this
Uh,
whole topic?
Well,
Probably a lot, but
yeah, there's so much to talk about, isn't there? But
yeah.
just with what you were just saying then about being in season, so that's sort of like your baseline for optimal eating as well, is, is it locally grown? Is it organic? And
Hmm.
is it in season? And if you tick all those boxes, that's going to be the best for you right now, rather than having something that's, grown with pesticides and chemicals. It's been in storage in
Hmm.
the freezer for like 2 years. It's then transported across the other side of the world. By the time it gets to you and on your plate, there's no very little nutritional value left. So we can be optimizing you know the types of foods that we eat for their medicinal benefits as well.
Beautiful. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. As I said many times on this podcast, but this one for sure, we could have dived down so many different rabbit holes and so many different areas of this because it's not just a simple band-aid, one size fits all fix in terms of these health issues and expressions that we're seeing. It's more about trying to understand the nuances that make us tick as individuals, also collectively, I suppose, as well, and the environment. And then what we can do about that, how we can take some sovereignty back into our own hands and really take charge of our own health. And it's something that I'm really passionate about. I know obviously Carmen is super passionate about it. I'm very grateful to her for sharing that passion with us all today. So if you're inspired by anything that she said today, I would highly recommend going and checking out her links, as always, in the description below. There's some Facebook pages, there's her website, and there's also a link there so that you can have a booking consult with her. So you can have a chat, go through the things that she was talking about there today, understand where you're at with your health and how you can then take that and understand yourself more deeply and do something about it for yourself at home. If you enjoyed this episode and you feel inclined to leave a review, obviously there's the number one thing that you can do that helps me and shows me your support. You can follow the podcast, you can share it around and help more people find these episodes. I would be super grateful for that. That's it from me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you listening and sticking around and very much excited to see you on the next episode. Thank you. Take care and bye for now.